must take an abundance of caution to ensure the safety of our families. We will hope for the best, but we will prepare for the worst.
That was Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer in February 2020, declaring the state's coronavirus emergency. Now, state Republican lawmakers are repealing the 76-year-old law, giving her that authority. On Wednesday, the GOP-controlled State House voted along party lines to repeal the Emergency Powers Act of 1945. The state Senate also approved the initiative a week ago. Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer used those powers to implement public health measures like a mask mandate and travel restrictions over the objection of Republicans. The temporary rules were the subject of protests last spring. During the April 2020 rally, several demonstrators carried long guns into the state capitol. At least 2 of them were later charged for allegedly plotting to kidnap Governor Whitmer. For more, let's bring in Dave Boucher. He's a government and politics reporter for the Detroit Free Press. Dave, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. So these powers were not intended to last forever, but the governor rolled back most pandemic-related restrictions in June. So what's behind this move to take this authority away from her now?
Yeah, this specific law that we're talking about has been the target of ire for Republicans in the state for months now. They specifically point to a Michigan Supreme Court ruling in October that determined that this specific law was unconstitutional. And so Republican lawmakers in the state and lots of voters in the state didn't want the governor to continue to have this power. They viewed the law as an ability for her to unilaterally, that's the word you hear a lot, unilaterally execute COVID rules and regulations that some thought were over the top. Now, it's important to note that the public health department, the state health department, has different powers under a different law to institute almost identical COVID regulations. And now that law is coming under attack from the same people who organized the petition drive that were able to repeal the specific emergency powers law that we're talking about today.
All right, so let's talk about that a bit more. The group that launched this petition to repeal the emergency powers law is called Unlock Michigan, already collecting signatures for another petition. Describe a bit more in detail. What exactly is that one for, and what's the controversy surrounding this group?
Yeah, so the second petition that we talked about is in relation to those public health powers that the head of the Department of Health and Human Services in Michigan has. So as soon as the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that the governor could no longer issue these rules, the head of the health department started issuing similar mandates under a specific different law. The petition drive, in theory, would allow lawmakers to put a 28-day limit on any orders issued by the health department. So, for example, another mask mandate or a gathering mandate or travel restrictions, if the health department wanted to extend a rule beyond 28 days, they would have to get approval from the legislature. Michigan has an interesting petition process where if, 8% of the number of voters who voted in the last gubernatorial election sign on to an initiative petition, that petition, the concept of that petition, be it a repealing of a law or changing of a law, goes before the legislature. The legislature can then adopt or approve the language of that petition, and by doing so, essentially changes the law in a manner where the governor can't veto it. And that's the important part here. The legislature had already tried to repeal this Emergency Powers Act a couple of times, and the governor had vetoed those legislative efforts. So this petition process gives conservatives in Michigan an avenue to potentially change laws in a way where Governor Whitmer can't get out or veto them.
Interesting. Well, we know that 14 people were arrested in a plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer last year. So far, all but one have pleaded not guilty. As the investigation proceeds, we're learning more about the extent to which FBI informants infiltrated the inner circles of that extremist group. What are the ethical arguments that we're hearing on both sides?
Sure. So we're hearing from the FBI and from the DOJ and from state law enforcement that this was an investigation that relied on informants, and informants worked with some of the accused in this plot and discussed some of the tactics and concepts with them. I've seen some reporting that indicated that they were working, the informants wanted to work with some of the individuals, including with like weapons and munitions, and in order to keep people safe. That's kind of the argument from the FBI, that they were leading some of these trainings in order to keep people safe. The defendants in this case argue that some of the informants orchestrated some of the major concepts in this case. They're essentially arguing entrapment. I would argue that this isn't, or I would note that this isn't like a novel argument. They've been arguing this for some time, that they thought that they were caught up. They were big talkers and they were caught up in this scheme that the FBI informants kind of like perpetuated. Obviously, the FBI and the DOJ think that these men who were arrested were, legitimately plotting and planning to kidnap the governor.
So more broadly here, Dave, what might this case mean for the Biden administration going forward? Because we know that they have talked about the threat of violent domestic extremism being one of the big threats facing the country today.
It certainly is a big case in Michigan, right? And it's a big case for the safety of elected officials in Michigan and in theory across the country. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion in our state and across the country about domestic extremism, be it from the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol to lots of other incidents, or threats across the country. I can't speak to how this would specifically affect any sort of Biden agenda goals or Biden administration goals. Obviously, I would assume that if the DOJ and the FBI bring an indictment against someone, that they want to pursue that conviction and they believe that a conviction is justified. And so, dropping charges after they're filed, especially in such a massive case like this, such a high profile case like this, would bring a lot of questions to the investigation and the way that the investigation was carried out.
All right, Dave, before we let you go, one more question on politics here. Governor Whitmer is going to seek a second four-year term in 2022. We know that Detroit's former police chief has been hinting at a run. What is the latest on that?
Right. So yesterday here in Michigan, former police chief James Craig announced that he was creating what he's calling an exploratory committee to pursue a run for governor, presumably under the Republican ticket. He later went on Fox News last night and said that he was running, and then came out again this morning on a local radio station and said that he's continued to explore that idea. But everybody in Michigan politics is operating under the concept that he is going to pursue the Republican nomination for governor. There are lots of people pursuing it, but right now, Chief Craig is arguably the biggest name in the Republican primary for the race. Governor Whitmer just announced she has $10 million in her campaign. Chief Craig hasn't run for office before, so anybody running against an incumbent who has that much money is facing an uphill battle. But right now, Republicans are very excited that Chief Craig is in the race and are excited for his prospects if he's able to make it out of the primary.
Interesting. Something definitely to watch. Dave Boucher. Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you.